Now, whenever we are told or we read any instruction stating that we're on the unit circle, the ratios are going to be found in the same way as before, but with the restriction that r is 1. The radius is 1. That's why we call it the unit circle. So if r is 1, we need to divide or write that 1. So instead of doing y over r as 1, we're simply going to have y, x over r, which is 1, sorry, y again, is going to be x, and the reciprocal is going to be 1 over y, as we can see here, and 1 over x. So same thing, but r being always 1. Why? Because it makes things easier for us, just working with an r of 1 instead of doing y of over whatever r is. We're going to have a 1, and sine is going to be simply equal to y, and cosine equal to x. So if you can tell by this example being in quadrant number 4, we're having a coordinate down here, quadrant 4, that reads like this: square root of 3 over 2, comma y. So y is going to be negative because of the quadrant. In this case, x is positive, and we are going to end up with a negative y because of the quadrant. So always take a close look at the quadrant and just have that preset on your coordinate so you don't forget about it. And if you want, you can even try to sketch it as a triangle if it helps. And r is already 1, and we have the x as positive, and it's square root of 3 over 2. So now it's just about finding y. How do we find y? Well, it used to be r squared is equal to y squared or x squared, just to keep a pattern, x squared plus y squared. But because r is 1, being in the unit circle, it's going to be 1, and 1 squared stays as 1. So that's going to make things easier. And we're going to have x as the square root of 3 over 2. And we're going to square it plus y squared. Then there's going to be a 1. If we square the square root of 3, that's going to be simply 3. And if we squared the 2, that's going to be 4 plus y squared. And now we're going to solve for y squared. So 1 minus 3 over 4 is equal to y squared. Now, sometimes when things tend to go wrong is when you work with fractions. If you have a 1, 1 can be anything that you want. Which is the best option for us right now? Anything divided by 4. So 1 can be written as 4 over 4. So let's use 1 as 4 over 4. That's another way of stating a 1. Minus 3 over 4, that's y squared. And we get 1 over 4 is equal to y. But keep in mind that that's still, y squared. Keep in mind that we need to find the square root. And the square root will give you plus minus the square root of 1/4. And you have to find the square root of both numerator and denominator. If you cannot find both, you can leave one of those expressed as a fraction. So you can do plus minus the square root of 1 over the square root of 4. So the square root of 1 is 1, and the square root of 4 is 2. So we are getting y as plus minus 1/2. But if you remember, I said that it was important to preset the sign of the y variable to find the final answer of y. So y is going to be minus 1/2. So y will be minus 1/2. And having that, we already know the complete coordinate, p of the square root of 3 over 2, comma 1/2. But It is minus 1/2. And the rest is, I believe, pretty straightforward. Sine of t or sine of theta, it's just a different way of calling the angle. In this case, the angle is from here all the way to here. So if we sketch, that would be the angle t or angle theta. And sine of t is simply y. How much is y? Minus 1/2. Or if you want to do y over r, you would just be doing minus 1/2 over 1, still minus 1/2. So same thing. We're just skipping the r because it's simply 1. Cosine of t is going to be equal to y over x. So that's simply x. So x is the square root of 3. I was getting ahead of myself because that's tangent. Tangent of t is equal to y over x. So simply go as minus 1/2 over square root of 3 over 2. And you're going to end up canceling this 2 with this 2, or you can do sandwich or as you want to call it. And we're going to end up with minus 1 over the square root of 3. So that's a correct answer, an exact answer, no decimal approximation, but we really want to go for the rationalized version of this answer. So we're going to have square root of 3 divided by square root of 3, and it's going to end up as minus the square root of 3 over 3. So that is going to be your final tangent.